Senator Whitehouse, thanks for taking the time to talk with us. And I want to get right into everything that's happening in Washington. I want to ask you first. I know you're friendly with a number of your Republican colleagues. You've done bipartisan bills, people like Dan Sullivan and others. I have to imagine you're having some private conversations with them about everything that's happened. What are they saying?
I don't want to put names to anything because then people stop being friends. But I will say that I've never seen Republican senators so angry. They are furious. Partly it's just because Trump is a lame duck. This is old school politics. He's on his way out. Nobody cares as much what he thinks any longer. His threats don't have the same power. And everybody's resetting for a Biden administration. So that's kind of in the natural course. Then they're all losing their chairmanships. They're losing the control over the floor. And to a person, they blame that on Trump. So that makes it pretty personal when you've suddenly gone to being in the minority and you blame that guy. And then I think for a lot of them, the assault and ransacking of the Capitol was a kind of a bridge too far, either in that it finally tore it with them, or they reached a political calculation that seeing those clips tagged against pictures of them with President Trump wasn't going to be a great look in their next campaign. And so, one is a more sincere version of the other, but it's basically the same idea that you've gone way too far. And I think that triple whammy has really, really caused a massive rupture in the relationship between Republican senators and Trump.
So let me ask you, the House, we've been told this afternoon, will vote Wednesday on the impeachment article Congressman Cicilline is co-sponsoring.
Yep.
I know there's some debate. I heard what you said at TF Green when you and Senator Reid arrived back last week about, is this the right course of action when you look at the calendar and everything, but also what happened on Wednesday. What do you think? Is the House right to be pursuing impeachment?
I'm totally comfortable with that choice. First of all, I think we've had just an extraordinary thing happen in our country's history, and the idea that we're just going to whistle and walk away from it would be dereliction. Second, everybody knows it happened. This isn't some incident that happened, in the Ukraine on a private phone call where you have to try to put the case together for the American people. So the trial itself, I think, can be extremely quick. I'd be surprised if there's anybody who doesn't have a pretty good idea how they're going to vote on this and can't figure out for themselves what they need to know in order to inform themselves. So I don't see it as being a lengthy proceeding or taking up an enormous amount of time. And if it helps prevent Trump's next and even worse act from taking place, then it will all have been worth it. And I will never know that because you never know what you prevent. But we could certainly find, to our very great shame, if we failed to do this and then he did something really berserk, even more berserk than sending a mob to sack the Capitol. Shame on us for not having executed our constitutional responsibilities.
You've heard, though, some of your Republican colleagues, including ones who are very, very critical of what the president did last week, who say, the temperature has to be lowered and impeachment will raise it even further. Hard as it is to imagine it getting raised even further. I mean, I see you're shaking your head already. Why?
I don't buy it. I think, this is already the sort of CYA, I don't want to have to vote on this reflex happening. And I'm sorry. I love a lot of my Republican colleagues, but their discomfort in having to vote on this is simply not significant in the equation after a Capitol police officer was killed, another one has committed suicide, the Capitol building in which we serve has been ransacked, and the greatest republic in the world has had itself shamed in the eyes of the world by these ghastly images, by these idiot hoodlums.
So the other thing is the Senate calendar, which is one of the most powerful forces known to man in my experience as a political reporter. And McConnell has said the 19th you're coming back, and then you have to go into the trial. It'll go into Biden's administration. Will the floor calendar be totally gummed up with the impeachment when you need to do confirmation hearings? Are you concerned about just that practicality of all the other things the Senate needs to be doing with a new administration?
No, there's a lot that needs to be done. And when Mitch will shut the Senate down for a week, or basically shut it down for whole Congress to do nothing but push his right-wing judges through, then he doesn't have any credibility with me in terms of concern about efficiently moving the Senate's business. That's not what he's about, and he has no credibility to make those arguments. I do think we'll see how serious he is about efficiently moving the Senate's business when we have to deal with the Biden cabinet. And how quickly is Mitch going to allow us to do that? And that's much more in his hands than it is in anything we do on the impeachment. The impeachment could be over in a day, could be over in 2 days.
You also put out a release today, and I'm almost wrapped up here, but on a Senate investigation of the riots and the security failures, and an ethics committee investigation into whether Senator Hawley and Cruz should be expelled or censured. And I have to get used to the fact that you're now speaking for what will soon be the majority party in the Senate, the minority just saying you wish something else was happening. Are those on the table when you talk to judiciary colleagues? Do you think that's the direction you're going, or you're just suggesting it?
I think there has to be an investigation. We can't refuse to look at colleagues who may very well have had a key role in fomenting this violent act in our nation's capital. So assuming that we have to at least take a look and find out what happened, then the ethics committee is the place that has the jurisdiction to do that. And I think we need to get underway and get that done. And it would be, I think, a real mistake to seat any of the obvious targets of that investigation on committees. They're going to be overseeing or looking at the response to the sacking of the Capitol, just because they have a humongous conflict of interest. So all of that is happening now as they're setting up the committees. So that's why I wanted to fire that idea out into the ecosystem so that people saw it. I brought it up in a call with all of our caucus yesterday as well, because we can't be putting Cruz and Hawley onto committees that are going to be looking over this business. And we've got to be prepared for letting our ethics committee members recuse themselves from political discussions about this, because they're going to have this matter almost certainly before them in their committee role.
One last question. It is a Senate question, but not on this, which is, as you know, Governor Raimondo, you congratulated her getting nominated for Commerce Secretary. I'd imagine you and Jack Reed will be getting, questions from colleagues who are, thinking about that confirmation process, and you'll be guiding her through it. Do you see any problems for her? Do you think she'll have smooth sailing in the Senate?
I think she'll have very, very smooth sailing. And I intend to continue to call her the Secretary of Oceans and Commerce because there's more oceans money in the Commerce Department's budget than there is commerce money, and it's NOAA, and she's from the ocean state. And I think that's one of the main reasons she took the job, despite all the, impulse to stay in Rhode Island and see the COVID pandemic through, is that this oceans issue is huge and incredibly important. And I think she feels a real passion for it. So I think she'll be smoothly our next Secretary of Oceans and Commerce.
Do you have any sense, and I know it's not your committee, it goes through the Commerce Committee, but how quickly you think she'd come up for a vote?
I don't. I think some of the conversation about it has been, targeting, say, March. Mm-hmm. There are all sorts of forms that have to be filled out, and, there's work to be done. And commerce, important though it is not as urgent as the Attorney General, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of the Treasury, and so forth. So she's not going to be in the at the top of the list to get through. So with all of that said, but with things likely to go smoothly, I would say March to April is probably a very safe bet. And if we can do it sooner, we will. I mean, the president deserves a cabinet, and she's pretty non-controversial on the merits.
All right, Senator Whitehouse, thank you for the update and everything going on. We'll be staying in touch.
Thank you, Ted. Take care.